All right, so we're going to kick off now.
Wait. Before we begin, there is something very important that we need to do. Do you know what it is?
No, but I'm concerned.
But I know. It's a duck. Here we go.
Oh,
now
wow.
It's gonna go great, right?
Thank you, Ivan. All right, so audience Q&A. We are going to have the last 10 to 15 minutes dedicated to the audience Q&A. If you haven't installed Discord on your phone, now is your chance. So you can scan the QR code. There is a channel that is called literally #panel-discussion, so it shouldn't be hard to miss. And you can put all your relevant and spicy questions for our panelists in there. Okay. So let me start introducing you all to our esteemed panelist. Pete. Pete is our first. Pete Savage. Pete, you have 40 years of experience in tech, and 25 years is in testing. If I started naming all the companies and job titles that you have worked at, it will take me probably 5 minutes. So I am going to let you tell us a little bit more about what you've been up to last 10, 15, or maybe 40 years.
Okay, I wasn't ready for that. I'd have to look at my CV to remember what I've done over the years. But I was in the UK for many, many years. I started as a developer, and until recently, I thought of myself as a failed developer, so thanks, Ryan, for putting that straight. I went into testing in '96, I think, and then Y2K came along, and then I started looking more around the test management and looking at tools and how we did testing. And then I came into the beautiful New Zealand in 2014. And I've been here ever since. So I've done a number of consultancy firms and a bit of contracting, so a little bit of everything. Is that enough?
Thank you, Pete. Did you tell us about Resourcefully? So Pete is also a founder for Resourcefully. You can catch up with Pete later on if you want to know more about how Resourcefully works or you want to collaborate with Resourcefully. Next up is my very dear friend, Ramia, who I've known for at least half a decade now. I met Ramia first at BNZ, and since then, we've started the BNZ Testing Guild. We've started several other community of practices. We've won hearts and arguments over in several meetings together, both of us. So Ramia, tell us a little bit more about your career and how you entered in tech and what you've been up to.
Yep. So, marhaba, salam, kia ora. Hi, everyone. So, I originally from Syria. I came here 2014. And I actually continued my journey in IT when I arrived here in New Zealand. My first automation testing job was 2005 or 4 back home, and that was outsourcing for a US company doing semiconductor manufacturing application. So doing that and then having to take a 10-year gap for my kids, coming back to New Zealand, I found the opportunity to come into IT. I did several roles, and I think my direction is mostly technical, but I started from testing to senior testing to leading in testing, and then later I worked more into infrastructure building and design. And I hope I can talk to you about that kind of career direction. Yep, that's all.
Thank you, Ramia. Ivan, you are a man who wears many hats. So I met Ivan online from my days when I used to be a baby YouTuber, and Ivan was also creating YouTube videos in the quality space, and his videos were far better than me. So I wanted to learn content creation on YouTube from him. Since then, your career has taken a few turns, right? So you used to work for Circle as a principal QA engineer. Then you decided to leave them. And you've now become a fully digital nomad. But Ivan was also named one of the top voices on LinkedIn in the quality engineering space. So apart from YouTube, content creator in the quality space, Ivan is also one of the top voices. Great to have you here. Tell us more about what you're up to nowadays.
Ooh, what an introduction. I used to think that my career started forever ago, but sitting here in this panel, I'm actually the youngest one. I think I started in 2006, which is good sometimes to be the youngest one. And as you said, I've done it all. You could say it was like manual testing into automation, into test leadership, and now into the digital homeless nomad. So yeah, that's me. I don't want to bore you. It's not important.
I want to hear about the cat sitting you're doing nowadays.
Oh, to minimize cost of living, there is a thing called pet sitting, where you could sign up and look after other people's pets and live in their house for free.
So Ivan has gone from being a principal QA engineer at Circle to being selling your house.
Principal homeless engineer at home.
Nice, lovely. Okay, so with the introductions out of the way, this is our topic, and we intentionally chose a topic that is relevant to most of us, given the current job market. Today's panel discussion is going to be very relevant to the New Zealand tech job market, because most of us still are living in New Zealand, and we are looking for our next jobs in New Zealand. Things that we discuss here do apply if you're looking for jobs outside New Zealand, for sure, but a lot of this is in New Zealand context. So, moving on. Our first question to our panelists is, what factors should software quality professionals consider when planning their career growth in the NZ tech sector? What makes career planning in the NZ tech sector unique? Pete, we're going to start with you, because I know you have worked overseas and you have a lot of experience. So I would love to hear your take on this.
Thank you. 10 years ago was overseas, but I'm going to be a little bit controversial and say everyone seems to be buggering off to Australia at the moment, or cat sitting. So it's not a great market at the moment. I think what's unique about New Zealand for me is the coffee, the networking, the conversations, the talking to people, getting to know people. That seems to be a very Kiwi sort of thing to do. In the UK, I was a contractor and a permanent member of staff for many years. We didn't do any of that. There was no meeting. It was interviews, and you were either in or you were out. There was none of that sort of networking as such. I don't know what it's like now, but it certainly wasn't when I left. For me, networking is a big part of it, but I think a really good thing to do, and things I'm seeing more and more, certainly in New Zealand, is having really honest conversations with your manager, your people leader, whatever it is. And I'm seeing more and more organizations having people leaders. For me, it's having those conversations, having those honest conversations. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go what's considered up the ladder to management, and you'll end up looking like this? Or do you want to go into diverse product ownership, different career paths within New Zealand and the tech market? So what do you love? What do you want to do? Be honest with yourself and be honest with others, because others, I think, in New Zealand are great at helping other people move their careers to where they want to go.
Ivan, would you like to add anything to that?
I wanted to say that New Zealand market is very small. So regarding of the time, that right now is bad timing, but overall, New Zealand is a small country. So the market here is small. So what it means practically to you is, if you go niche, like you were talking about ETL thing, right? How many roles right now you would find if you go on Seek or LinkedIn and search for ETL? probably 0, maybe 1 or 2 max. So my point is, it's very dangerous to go niche. And niche could be from many perspectives. Niche in your role/title. If you are test lead, that's niching in your speciality of what you're doing at work. If you are insurance domain tester, that's different niche, right? If you test automator in a certain language and framework, that's another niche. And the more niche you go, the more risk you expose yourself to. So if I were planning my career, if I were like a junior or intermediate QA, I would go into wider generalist range, jack of all trades kind of, because I think that locking myself down will be problematic for me in the future.
Can I disagree with this a bit?
Of course. That's the point of the panel. Yes.
Because if you plan your career to be a general, like everyone is using Selenium, so I'm gonna go learn Selenium, or everyone is using Playwright right now, I'm gonna go and learn Playwright. Whatever direction or tool or specific UI testing, API testing, whatever, there are some categories already, they are known by a lot of testers. So if you actually select those, fine, that's awesome, you will get some jobs, but you'll be competing with others. Having some niche on top of them would give you that specific qualities that some people will go, oh, we never met, for example, a tester who's doing ETL, and we do have that capability in the company, so maybe we should hire you. What niche also gives is that you are someone who can be self-learning, because like obviously all the other ones are generic and there's like a lot of learning for them. But for example, when we try to get someone who knows how to test Kafka, how many did we get? Not a lot. The minute we saw some testers who actually talking about being, specifically testing and asynchronous systems. It's very important. You're not testing Kafka itself. You're testing a system that is working asynchronously. If you took that this is something that you've done, then that is very a plus for you that can take you above the normal market. So niche is good. Maybe don't go, just in that niche and forget everything. You do have to have some experience in a lot of areas. But sometimes niche actually get you the job more than the general.
Can I reply? Thank you. You're right. It's a high risk, high reward versus low risk, lower reward or bigger competition kind of situation. So I was giving my advice in terms of more stable life with more predictability. And you saying, yes, you're going to win, probably going to win big, but what if not? That's a danger.
Yeah. But you do win to the future as well.
Of course, of course.
I'm going to hand over the mic to Pete now, because I feel like Pete has a disadvantage because we are sharing the mic. Ivan and I should have been sharing the mic, so.
Just thinking about the factors you should think in. I think we've heard it a few times today around value that you bring. I think we don't have that confidence that what we do is valuable, and I think we've got to learn that, and we've got to, in the market at the moment, there'll be an advert for a job, you might be interested in going down that career path or whatever it might be. There's 100 people going for that job. So it's really tough market out there. Right now, this is just talking in the moment rather than career planning. But I think you've got to value yourself. You've got to talk to the hiring manager and talk in their language. And we talked about risk today. So what does testing bring? And looking at that risk, bringing that value. So you've got to value yourself, and you've got to stand out and have confidence in what you do, because it's a very valuable contribution. It doesn't exist. Testing doesn't exist for the good of its health. It has a huge value. So talk confidently. Talk about value, talk about risk. I think that will put your head and shoulders against other people going for that role.
Thank you. I am keen to bring another angle. I'm not sure if we've already discussed that. Because New Zealand has Okay, thank you very much, Ivan. So New Zealand has a handful of enterprise-level companies. We have way more startups and scale-ups, and a lot of you, I know, are working for startups and scale-ups, or if you work for big enterprises, you're planning to move to startups and scale-ups, because maybe you're just bored working for big corporates, or vice versa. So I'm keen to hear your takes on that. So if someone is trying to, like, let's say they've always worked for a large bank, and now they're just bored, you know? They've been doing it for 10 years. They want to move to a small company. What factors would they consider? Go on, Ivan. Very obvious.
I would say in the beginning of your career, it's probably a better idea for you to go and work for a bigger established company. Reason is, in the bigger established companies, they have processes and they solved most of the problems. And you are more likely, on average, to learn good practices there. And once you become a little bit of a master of good practices, you could move on to startups or smaller companies and start influencing culture there, influencing quality through your actions. But if you go to the startup straight away, you'll be like, I don't know what to do. And you might do good because you're trying to do good, but again, less likely.
Yeah, I believe going directly to a startup is a bit scary, but the other factor that you really need to think of is how you learn. So, for example, startups are really good if the way you learn is by trying, because you have the freedom to innovate. You get to try new things, you get to try different ways to do things. No one is telling you this is how you have to do, you know, bloody process, sorry. But if you want someone who like to learn from others, from looking at someone else's work, technically, for example, you're starting your automation testing career and you want a framework to be already set up for you. And you want to, you know, ease your way into that automation testing world by having someone, you know, taking your hand. Then actually finding a company who's well established, have the processes to teach you would be really good. And especially a lot of those companies have the best interest, if you're permanent, of course, has the best intention to get you upskilled, because otherwise what they're going to do with you if you don't learn it. So basically it works win-win in that situation. Now again, that's talking about like you trying to learn. We're not talking about you're now a senior contractor who's like, you know, want to seize a job here or there. That's a different context. But if you're junior, intermediate, yep, those are your options, really.
I think I'm going to hand over the mic to Pete first, and then Ivan, you'll have to write. Because Pete, I'm really keen to hear your take on this, because you are currently head of testing at Westpac, and you have worked in all sizes of companies. You've also co-founded your own company. You're a company founder, so I think you will have a lot of insights there. So, Ivan, you'll have to wait. Pete's going first.
Oh. I was going to say it's very much about being flexible, adding value. A startup is very different to a large organization, obviously, and you get a lot more support, as you said. But I think all organizations really enjoy and want to help people who are also flexible and pragmatic and are helping to get to the end goal. One thing we haven't talked about is consultancies. So there's a number of consultancies here. They're sponsoring the event, which is great. It's a slightly different proposition in a consultancy. So within a large organization, there'll be a budget, there'll be all the conversations about reimbursements, there'll be about career path. Within a consultancy, it's slightly differently, because I want to go to the next level, my next level pays more. In their mind, it's how do we get that return on investment? Are you sellable at that next level? And how much are we going to sell you out for? Essentially, that's what they're doing. They're a business to make money. So you've got to also understand what business you're in. With a startup, less money, therefore you've got to add more value. You've got to be able to be flexible and pragmatic. So it's horses for courses, but I think underlying for me is always being adaptable, adding that value, and working with the team that you're in.
What I wanted to add, it's a sudden flash in my head, that my advice about going into the big company earlier in your career is also a dangerous advice, potentially. And you've seen people, maybe, you know, some people who have like, I have 10 years of experience, and it's not really 10 years of experience, it's the same 1 year repeated 10 times. So this is something that you could get theoretically, and probably more likely to happen in a bigger company where you just doing your thing for 10 years and you're so good at it, but you are completely unemployable elsewhere. So beware of staying somewhere for too long.
That would be called comfort zone. Make sure you don't fall in that comfort zone, and you have opportunities to challenge yourself within the company itself if you want to. So like, don't think that I have to quit my company to challenge myself in something. Sometimes you can challenge yourself within the same company, within your role or next team. Yeah, definitely. If you catch yourself in a like relaxing kind of mode, it's really up to you if you want to continue your career or you want to relax. And sometimes it might be your option because there's too much happening going on. And that's one of the beauties, I would say, about New Zealand that give you that break, that actually consider life-work balance. But as I said, like if you're considering you have a career, not a job, then you probably don't want to be on your comfort zone.
I would just add that I think moving from different companies to different companies is a great idea. You get different ideas and different experience. From a hiring manager's perspective, if you see people jumping constantly, it's a red flag. So there's got to be a fine line there somewhere. So just be aware of that, especially personally, if I say a contractor, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, possibly a bit of a red flag there.
I actually refused one of the CVs in an interview because I couldn't see a contract that lasted more than 4 months. And I was like,
That is, yeah, I believe that is quite an interesting point, the contracting, because I've been contracting for the last half decade. And luckily, majority of my contracts have been about a year long, which is I prefer, because again, if it's any short than a year, financially, it's quite a risk for me. And it's not stable. And again, it doesn't look good in the CV. So moving on to our next question. How can I effectively prepare to secure a role in the current New Zealand tech job market? What strategies have worked for you, and which skills should I focus on developing? When I say I mean the people in the audience, anyone who is trying to look for a job. And when I say the current New Zealand tech job market, it's everything that's happening right now, you know, the redundancies, the new government. Too many things to recall for me, so, you know. Let's start with Ivan this time.
Me again. Good. I'll start with my personal historic perspective as an immigrant. When I was coming to New Zealand, I heard a lot of stories about New Zealand job market. And most of them were like, ooh, we're searching for a job for like 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, and struggling to find it. And when I came, I somehow was lucky to find a job like straight away in the first interview. And again, I think I was just lucky that it was a good time and good moment for me. And that's not the point. But being lucky is important. I think I was trying to analyze what got me the job, and I think that it was my level of spoken English. I don't know how much of the audience here is immigrants and have like strong accent or like not know language well enough because they just came recently and they're struggling. But I think that's one of the undervalued skills which is essential for us because we are supposed to be the glue between development and business and be good at communicating. And if you cannot explain well what you're doing and why you're doing and why we need to be doing something, you're going to struggle, and in terms of people will unlikely to hire you. So that's just, if you feel like your language is not strong, pay attention to try to be better at communication. Like go to the courses, pay for a speaking coach or something, right? Sorry, I have a few more things. Do you have a comments to reply, or I will say a few more things? Okay, good. And I think what works in New Zealand is mostly networking. That's probably what I would say. Go to meetups, if there are meetups, even if it's a developers meetups, or conferences like that, and actually talk to people. Like we have a person here today wearing an orange t-shirt who came here specifically for networking and hiring people. Very good job placement, sir. You know who you are. So a lot of companies in New Zealand will be saying, why spending money on, let's say, recruiters if we can just find a free job board? Or even better, we can ask our current employees, do you know someone who can fill the role? So a lot of the time, roles are not even go to the outer market. They are appear inside of the company to say, oh, maybe one of the support engineers, so like customer service people, want to convert to be a QA. And sometimes these roles are filled. They don't even go to LinkedIn or SIG. So networking is important because you are signaling people you know that, oh, I'm on the market, I'm looking for a role, for a job, and here's my skills. If you think I'm fitting, maybe mention me to your hiring manager in your company.
Networking is a good point to start from. So before COVID, we had like this division in the bank where we're building APIs. At that time, there was like a new thing. And we wanted testers, and we, put up roles up for testers to apply to, and we got a lot of, applicants. And then going through the interviews. The interviews was very simple. I just put like a small swagger about how you create a customer, basically. Just create customer, get a customer, update customer details. And I asked them, can you please give me like test cases for this? And you can't imagine some of the answers that I got. Like, for example, someone was giving me the positive cases, and then, okay, I said, like, awesome, thank you. Can you give me some negative, test cases? And he said, we should always think positive. Seriously, I got that answer. Someone else, I remember I was asking, like, what would happen if you call this, this endpoint and there's no customer? And she was like very, enthusiasm that she can answer this. And she said, page not found. And I was like, what? I'm talking about API, not UI. So we thought, okay, there's a gap in the market for people to understand what a swagger is, what an API testing is. We had problems with testers who don't even know how to use Postman, how to use the, the authentication kind of mechanisms and stuff like that. So we started a meetup. And we were like, very enthusiasm, we're gonna do it. And then we actually did the first session, and we even did it like half-half, like online and in person, and we started with explaining what swaggers are and stuff like that. It had like a really good echo. People really liked it and attended, and we were like planning ahead. We're going to do the next session about Postman, the next session about API test cases, functional testing, non-functional testing for APIs. And then COVID comes. And everyone back in their houses. We couldn't do the meetup anymore. We weren't able to start it, for quite some time. And when we wanted to start it afterwards, people just everyone was like everywhere else. So it was really hard for us to come back. So networking is very important, but sometimes you cannot get that, you cannot get that networking, because the whole idea was we will train them and then we'll hire them, but we couldn't do that. So what else you can do to do the networking? Make yourself visible. So start from what you can control, which is you. So you have a GitHub, a LinkedIn, page. You have you don't even need a website. Just go and write something of your experience. It doesn't even need to be technical. You could talk about a problem in your work and how you're able to solve it. How you were able to convince the developer that this is a bug. In requirement, in development, it's a bug. So that kind of articles will tell the people who you are. So when you come in an interview, which is something we do, we will look at your LinkedIn. If I see articles and I see that you already uploaded some test automation examples about whatever, I want to ask you, do you know Get? This is the kind of thing that takes you to a different line of interviews, because now I know about what roughly you have. I mean, certificates are good to have certificate and put it, but articles tells me more who you are, how you think. And it is important in both technical and soft skills. Like whatever you can express about yourself, that is the real CV, not what you ask ChatGPT to write. Sorry.
And just to add, it's your career. Do something about it. LinkedIn is a great place. It's your window to the rest of the world. As a recruiter or person hiring, first thing I do is go and look on LinkedIn. It's just where everybody goes. So put something on there. So again, thank you for mentioning Resourcefully, but we did a meetup group every month, and I get guest speakers in to talk about things that are relevant. We had someone coming in to talk about how you make your LinkedIn profile stand out. How do you make your CV stand out? 4 people turned up. It was ridiculous. So you've got to do something. Networking, talking internally, talking to your managers. What do you honestly want to do? I'll reiterate that. The great thing about New Zealand is you can talk to anyone. People will give you half an hour of their time if they're completely unrelated to you and help you. Take advantage of that. There's not many places in the world that will do that. I've talked to, starting Resourcefully, talked to a lot of founders. In the UK, I wouldn't have got past the PA. In New Zealand, every founder and CEO has given me at least half an hour of their time. So take advantage of that. That's something very unique to New Zealand.
Hold on, Ivan. I was going to ask Ivan, but it's so much fun to stop him because he's just trying to jump in. I was just going to add, content creation is something that I started doing probably around when COVID hit, because I think I had reached the same point in my career. And I started exploring YouTube. This was before kind of like I started organizing New Zealand Testing Conference or NZTech Rally. All of that manifested into this today. But that's where I met Ivan and Peto, our speaker, because they were both already creating YouTube content and courses, online courses. And there are not a lot of people in New Zealand who are doing that in the quality space. So that's how we connected. So I just wanted to mention that. And all of those beautiful relationships has today manifested into us all being part of New Zealand Testing Conference 2024. Go on, Ivan. You can have your piece now.
I wanted to jump on the train of ideas about standing out and to make a point that with the minimal effort, it's actually not that hard to stand out. Right? But a lot of people, I've been hiring and I've been looking at CVs of the people, and a lot of the time, it's an absolutely generic minimum effort kind of thing. So I'm looking at your CV and I'm reading, oh, I was doing test cases or participated in team meetings and stuff, and I don't know who you are. For me, you just one of 100 CVs that I've got. So, would you be invited to the interview? Possibly yes, if everything else is matching, but also possibly no. So if you put a little bit of effort, if you publish an article on LinkedIn and mention it somewhere in your statement, it's like, I'm writing blog. You already like 1 in 100. You're already unique. And it's not that hard to do. But surprisingly, a lot of people don't do that for some reason. And I think more people should.
So I'm probably not sure I'm allowed to say this really. Many years ago, thankfully, you always get lots of people sending their CVs and you do lots of interviews. I've got a couple of examples where someone copied and pasted from the advert, came in for the interview because they were a perfect match, and 10 out of 10 for honesty, they said they'd lied and it was just a copy and paste from the advert, which put them on my blacklist. But we do get a lot of people that come through and say, I've done this and done that, and there's lots of similar, especially in this market. I hired someone once because they did hot air ballooning, because they were interesting. They were an interesting person. In fact, my first ever job interview for a developer for the cooperative bank in the UK, they asked me if I played pool. I thought, oh, that's it, I haven't got the job. They're just wasting my time. I said, yeah, play a bit, I've got a little pool table at home. Hired me. Apparently every Friday the whole team went and played pool at the pub. They knew I could do the job, or I was a junior and I'd learn. So you've got to fit in with the team, you've got to be of interest. You are a human being, you're not there just to be generic.
Something I just wanted to mention that with this market, it's not just that, economically it's not a very good market, but and half of the population is going to Australia. But on top of that, we have a lot of companies also outsourcing. So you're talking about a market that is like really challenging for you to survive in. So you really need to make sure that what you are doing, this career, this gift that you have, which is your analytic, skills above everything else, is actually nurtured and actually, getting some niche. Because you really want to stand out, you need to have the advantage in this very competitive market. So maybe if things were like it was a bit 5-6 years ago, I would say there's always, jobs for all levels. But now you can see a lot of companies are moving more into getting people who have skills, especially in contracting. They go like, we need the best of the best, otherwise we're not gonna get that person. So in such a market, it's really your, your decision, how much you want to push yourself to get into that top. Saying push, it's not a really, good word, because if you don't enjoy it, then you're probably in the wrong industry. So if I'm actually doing something for learning about AWS, for example, or something, if I'm not doing it and enjoying it, then probably I shouldn't be doing that. Doing my work in fun, like they said, that should be something you think of. Otherwise, going from tester still to different industries, even within software, is also available. I'm just saying, find your gig, find your fun, and keep pushing yourself so that you are unique. So basically, I tell my daughter she wanted some time to do photography, and I was like, okay. And I was like, how she can live on photography? And then she said, I like it. And I was like, okay. So I went and I invested in a 1,000 plus camera. And I thought, if she doesn't use it, at least we can use it for family photos or something. She used it a bit. She was she did really good photos with it, but they were normal. There was no spark in them. So here we had this conversation. You really want to go into photography? You have a journey of loving photography for the sake of photography. You'll feel like you're breathing it. This is how you will lead in that area. Go for it. Then you'll make it. But if you're just doing it because, just a little bit of something you have to do here or there, then probably maybe that's just a side hobby, not a career. So if that's your career, then you really need to enjoy it.
All right, thank you, Ramia. So, if you are following us on Discord, I will be taking the questions that has maximum votes. So, I am loving the questions and the commentary on the Discord. So, please do participate by sending reactions, and the questions with maximum votes will be the ones that our panelists will be answering. So, next question. What is your experience with learning technical and non-technical skills in your QA career? What skills have helped you the most as you've progressed through your tech career? One of the things that I would really appreciate for all three of you for this question is to put the head of when you were just entering the tech job market, because we have a lot of people who are just starting their careers. And then as you move from junior to intermediate, what helped you then? And then when you move from intermediate to senior, what helped you then? And once you reach the senior, what's next? What are you currently working on? Because I know all three of you are like seniors now. So I would really appreciate that nuance. Who hasn't gone first yet? Ramia? Here we go. Ramia, you go first.
You hear all the time about like technical skills and soft skills. And I just want to really be honest. I will take soft skills over technical skills anytime. Because when you have soft skills, that means you have the intelligence to learn, the intelligence to communicate, the intelligence to actually grow in the technical skills. The opposite is really hard. I might get like someone to do something specific, and that's just because I'm desperate to deadline. But especially if we're talking about permanent employee, the most value will come from the soft skills. So even if you're a junior, one of the biggest stuff, like we run campaigns like Summer of Tech, graduation projects in the bank, where we get new students who just graduated or about to graduate to work with us in the bank, and then later on we offer them hopefully a placement. Number one, we're looking, and that's a fresh junior, not what they did, not what the A's that they had, and like it is important, yeah, but that's not what we measure mostly. We're measuring team fit, we're measuring how much they are open and communicating, and like they have the spark of, especially if it is a testing role, like the number one, curiosity and analytic problem solving. That's the number one of what make a tester a tester. Yeah, so I would say soft skills even before tech.
Can I hijack? I have somewhat different opinion, and I would say that earlier in your career, hard skills are more important. You just mentioned in the previous question that you would ask in the interview, it's like, what is a swagger? What am I going to get? And they were like, I don't know. That's a hard skill. They don't know, and they should. So did you hire them? Probably not. Because if you are talking about someone junior, right, they need to be able to do things you told them to do. And yes, you could teach the hard skills. It's easier to teach. But this is what we're talking about, the junior people. It's nice if they have soft skills, right? Obviously. But we're talking about unicorns, and sometimes it's hard. But the more you grow in your career, the more soft skills become important. Oh, say you're a senior or a test lead. Oh, now you need to influence your whole team. You need to explain to them the importance of doing something. So you need to deeply understand that and be able to verbalize it so that they understand it. So you need to speak their language. And this is very hard to do. And young professionals, if they can do that, they're great. But yeah, as I said, they are probably unicorns. There is a very famous presentation / YouTube talk called Being Glue by Tanya Riley. So if you haven't seen it, go and Google it and see it. It's actually talking about roughly this situation, that if you are junior enough and you're doing a lot of glue work, which is soft skilly you might be not promotable, basically. So you're shooting your own leg and you damaging yourself and your career. So prove to them that you, let's say, technical enough that you could write code or do good testing, and now you're senior, now you can use your soft skills to the bigger degree and scale down on hard skills.
This is why I should have... This is why I wanted a mic. Because I think what we have in difference here is the definition of what soft skills is. So part of soft skills is actually your ability to learn, your ability to adapt, your ability to actually self-motivate. And that doesn't mean that, and especially for juniors, for example, like we know that they don't know. Like that's not what we're hiring them for. We're hiring them because we think that they are good material. And to be honest, a lot of those juniors, you can't imagine, they are pillars now in the bank. Like we really suffer if they want to leave. We can't easily replace them. And they're still young, and I actually sometimes envy them because they are really managed to get into a really good place in that young age. But the foundation was that they, like, you know, one of them had in his, I think there was like in the CV, the skills, Googling. Seriously. And that was impressive when we asked, because what they wanted to explain was that they know how to get the information. And that's exactly what we wanted. We didn't want someone to knock our door and every 5 minutes and, can you tell me how to do this? Can you tell me how to do this?
I'm a technical Luddite. And I think if I'm very honest, when I was a developer, I was pretty much a technical Luddite. I could code, it was COBOL and assembler, it wasn't exactly the most exciting development code in the world. It wasn't that difficult, even I could do it. But I think this is about being honest with yourself and where you want to go. If you are technically good and you enjoy that world, go and do that. Don't go, as we see so often, people who are very, very good technically go into management for the money. It's a very different skill set. So be very honest with yourself and focus and work on your skills and stay in that realm. Hey, if you want a little bit more money, it's a little bit more unstable, contracting is an option to keep doing your coding or whatever. It's not for everyone. You need to make that decision carefully. But the skills you have, if you enjoy them, stay in that realm. Management and tech and doing are very, very different worlds apart. So I would very much encourage everyone to look at themselves and be honest and work with their strengths. Don't grow a career for the sake of you think that's the way up.
Just something to add about the management and the career pathways. It's important for you to try it. So if you're senior QA for a few years, and you want to be like a test lead or like dev team lead, I don't know, something like that, some step in management. Yes, you need to realize you're probably not going to be great at it, but you also don't know if you like it or not, and if it's something you want to grow into unless you try. So it's important for you to try it out and then make a decisions based on new information that you will acquire if you want to go back to senior QA. Or stay and continue growing the career in there. Because it could be for you. You don't know unless you try.
I have actually a question for the audience. So how many of you consider themselves automation tester? Okay. How many consider themselves manual tester? Cool.
Shouldn't it be everyone, though?
Just wait. So how many of those manual testers you guys actually ended up writing an SQL statement to get data, for example? So the thing that I wanted to say, it is not automation testing. It's using automation in testing. So basically, what is efficiency? Efficiency is, if this is your process to do a test case, where in that process you are suffering the most from repeating yourself, doing the same thing again and again, this is where you need to invest It doesn't need to have like a fancy framework of, protractor testing or like whatever other tools you want. All you need to look at how I can do this test the fastest with implementing as much as small, easy to maintain scripts. And you can call yourself automation tester, because actually it is not about automation or manual. It's about efficiency. It's about test cases. So if you found the test cases, the right test cases that find the risk, risk. And if you find the best way to do it in efficient way, then basically that is the definition of an automation tester. We had, I think one of the audience know about that. We had a big UI suite to do a manual testing, automation testing for an application that goes from the start to the end. It was covering 4 cases of like a big lending applications. And those 4 tests fail every time we want to release. They were integration testing. And then the testers take like 3-4 days to just fix them to get the release out because they were blocking the pipeline. You know how it takes for a normal tester in that team to do those 4 cases? Half an hour. Do you think that is, worth it? Yes. So when you think about yourself, it's not manual or testing. You're efficient tester. Whenever you can squeeze the process, you hit N. And that's really back to how you see your value. That's really important.
Thank you. Some really great points. I'm dying to add my own commentary, but there's only 7 minutes left, so I'll save my commentary. Audience Q&A. So there is a very good question, which is quite relevant to the question that we've just discussed. The question is, in the current software testing industry, I think after you become a senior tester, it's quite difficult to go to the next level. And usually, the next level is a test manager. What other career paths can we consider? I would like Pete to go first.
Thanks. This is a difficult one. I personally think, and I've got lots of people I work with who I go to, who I know are very good at their thing, and they stay in that lane, and they want to stay in that lane. If you're doing it for more money, obviously contracting is a route. But I think, I don't think there's anything really you need to do other than if that's your bag, that's what you're liking, that's your place of comfort, and you're good at it, keep doing that.
I'll chip in. As someone who actually managed to break the ceiling somehow, and I had a principal QA engineer role, this was basically across the organization. Improve things. Good luck. These roles exist and they start to appear slowly. If you're following the bigger tech companies with a lot of employees, they have like staff roles and principal roles and sometimes other fancy names roles. But these things exist, so it is possible to go individual contributor / hands-on / technical route beyond the senior. It's rare, and again, in New Zealand being a small market, it's rare here, but it's possible. You also have option to go into management, obviously, and this could be management of like team lead potentially, because why not? It's not, or a test manager, which is probably a dying role. And also you have option of lateral moves, right? Career doesn't go up and down all the time because money is not everything in life. It's important, but not everything. 5 minutes left. But yeah, you could maybe decide to transition to product. We had a speaker today who started as a developer and then she transitioned to product. Whatever rings your bell, whatever brings you fun, maybe consulting. It's a lot of high-paced, different projects, more challenging environment that established, I know everything in my job place and I'm comfortable. So choice is yours. There are options.
Thank you for leaving 2 minutes. But
We have 5 minutes, and I'm really dying to hear Ramia's take on this because it is very interesting. Ramia.
yeah, so, okay, so number one value, yes, as they said, your analytical mind and the ability to solve problem, but actually number one asset that you have within any company that you worked probably more than 6 months or a year in is that you are the only one who knows the system. Tell me any other person in the bank, any other role in the bank that would know the system from A to Z, technical and business. None. You are the only ones. Because you can talk to the business about their requirements, and then you can talk to the developers about their code, and then you can go to logs and see what's happening. You can go to the database and see your data. You're actually the ones who know the system. What does that mean? That means that you can go from there to anywhere in the bank. Or in whatever company you're working on, because now you actually hold all that different knowledge. So don't underestimate that value. That's the core value, not the technical skills. As I said, they come as you need them. And to be honest, there's a career if you know the system. So for example, in my case, I started from being tester and leading testers and helping testers on board, blah, blah, blah. But then I know the system to the edge that now I'm designing the system. So the work that I'm doing right now is designing the infrastructure for IBM MQ on AWS and on-prem. With the security, with the infrastructure that avoid the problems that we have right now. Because I understand it, I've been there, I've been testing, I saw the faults, I saw the issue, and now I can actually go into design because I know from the developing cycle to the infrastructure how that works. So you have a career of even being an architect, not only being a technical.
And just reiterate again, talk to someone either internally. Let's do a bit of a show of hands. Who here has got someone they can actually go and talk to honestly about their career and get some help? Which is great. Do you do it? I don't know. But if you haven't, find someone. Talk to them. Internally, if you're comfortable, talk to your manager if you're comfortable, talk to people externally, they'll all help. So talk, it's your career, find the advice and help from others who've maybe been there before and can help.
Can I just add, this is why we organize conferences with after parties. If you do not have a mentor, join us at the after party and find a mentor. And I think that is it. There was a great panel discussion. Thank you all of the panelists. Thank you for the amazing questions and the spicy commentary on the Discord channel. It was very entertaining. Thank you. Next, we are moving into quiz, and my friend Erin is going to take over from here on. A big round of applause for all of our panelists, please.